welcome back to Travel in Chinese. I'm Mark Rosewell, also known as Dashan. In this series, we're talking about traveling in China, but we're learning Chinese language that can be used in a wide variety of situations, common everyday language. Well, we've gone through the lessons relatively quickly, but every once in a while we stop like today and we go back and review the lessons that we've done in the last few weeks. In the last group of lessons, we were having fun touring around the Beijing area a bit. We went to the Great Wall, Changcheng, and the Summer Palace, Yiheyuan. Many popular travel destinations in China have historical anecdotes or sometimes fables associated with them. When we talk about the Great Wall, the most commonly told story is that of Meng Jiangnu, whose husband was conscripted to work on the wall and later died there. Her tears are actually said to have been able to break the wall open so that she could recover the body of her dead husband. When talking about this, we learned the expression 而已, used to put a sense of affirmation at the end of a statement, using 只是. For example, 那只是传说而已. That's just a fable, and that's it. We also learned expressions like 的确, indeed, 的确很有用, indeed quite useful, 的确很有帮助, indeed quite helpful, and 根本 meaning absolutely or completely. 根 are roots, so 根本 is like saying from the roots up, in other words, completely. 传说里的长城和现在看到的长城根本就不是一回事儿. The Great Wall in the fable and the Great Wall we see today are completely different. They're not the same thing at all. Okay, let's go now and watch the dialogue where Huan Renhao and his daughter were discussing the Great Wall.
爸爸，你知道孟姜女的故事吗？
当然知道了。
人好，你可不知道，他昨天上课的时候刚学了这个故事，今天逢人就问。
爸爸，你既然知道这个故事，就带我去长城玩吧。我来北京这么久，我还没去过长城呢。
老公，我正琢磨周末去哪儿呢？要不我们就带小杰去一趟长城吧。
太好了，爸爸。你说我们能不能找到当年孟姜女哭长城的地方呢？
那只不过是个传说而已，你还当真了？
来，小杰，我考考你，你知道孟姜女是什么朝代的人吗？
让我想想，你难不倒我的，是秦朝的。
对啊，而我们现在可以看到的长城啊，主要是明代修建的。
这么说，传说里的长城和现在看到的长城根本就不是一回事儿。
对，你真聪明。
We spent the previous lesson talking about the Great Wall. Now it's time to visit there in person. As the saying goes, 不到长城非好汉. You're not a true hero unless you visit the Great Wall. Of course, this saying comes from the day when the Great Wall was vital to China's defenses, and to visit the Great Wall meant that you were serving to defend your country. Still, nobody today should come to China and miss going to the Great Wall, at least once. Several sections of the wall are close to Beijing and are easily visited as a half-day or a full-day trip. We learned that in Chinese, you don't usually visit the Great Wall, 游览长城, you usually 爬长城, climb the Great Wall. Much of the wall is built along the top of the hilly ranges, and so rises and falls with the lay of the land. Some say the wall 像一条龙似的, it looks like a dragon. It's another traditional symbol of China. This uses the sentence pattern we practiced in this lesson, 像 something 样, or 像 something 似的. 像一条龙似的, it looks like a dragon. 条 is the measure word we use for dragon since they are long and thin. In this lesson, we came across the term 了不起, amazing, incredible, impressive. 古代的中国人够了不起的. Ancient Chinese were really quite amazing. The building of the Great Wall is one of the greatest engineering feats in ancient history. If you wanted to walk the whole distance, 至少得走2个月, you would have to walk at least 2 months. 至少 is another expression we covered in this lesson, at least. 我每个星期至少要锻炼3次. I exercise at least 3 times a week. We also touched on the expression 刚才, just now. 你刚才说的, what you said just now. 他刚才走了. He just left a moment ago. Okay, now let's go back to the dialogue and see how Xiaojie and her father do while they're visiting the Great Wall.
爸爸，快点！
小杰，小心，你慢点啊！
爸，你看这长城都建在山上，越来越高。
哈，漂亮吧？高低起伏的，就像一条龙似的。
漂亮，比我在照片里看的还好看。
是啊，小杰啊，咱们继续往上爬吧，上面的风景啊更美丽。走。
爸爸，
啊，
长城上面也好宽呐。
是啊。
我们可以在这准备个 party。
那可不行，小杰啊，长城是国家重点保护文物，你知道吗？这里啊可以同时走5匹马、10个士兵呢。
爸爸，你快来看，这长城的砖还真够大的。你说这些砖是怎么搬上来的？而且又没有汽车，搬这些砖得多费劲儿啊！
哈，别说汽车了，这里啊连条路都没有。要知道，这里的山最高有1000多米呢，全是靠人一块一块搬上来的。
哇，真了不起！哎，爸爸，你说有人走到过长城的头吗？
有啊，有人从山海关啊一直走到嘉峪关呢。
那得走多长时间呢？
好，至少啊得走2个月。
啊，这么长啊！
是啊。
要是我才走不动呢。哎，爸爸，你刚才说的那2个关就是长城的2头吧？
对呀。哎，你是怎么猜到的？
怎么猜的？是我上网查的。
The Great Wall was a structure used for military defense until the Ming Dynasty. In contrast, the Summer Palace was used for recreation by emperors of the late Qing Dynasty, and, most notably, the Empress Dowager Cixi. She's the dragon lady blamed for much of the corruption and weakness of the late Qing Dynasty, which eventually crumbled not long after she died. The English name Summer Palace is not a translation of the Chinese name Yiheyuan. Yiheyuan is the original name given to the palace grounds in imperial times. Like many traditional Chinese place names, it's very poetic. Yi is a classical character meaning to nourish, so the name literally means park where peace is nourished. The English name Summer Palace is much more utilitarian. Another expression we learned was 主要, mainly. Talking about the Summer Palace, they say 主要不是因为它的面积大. It's not mainly because it has such a large area, 而是因为它可以看的地方太多, but because there are so many things to see. Should we visit the Summer Palace tomorrow? We could say 主要得看明天的天气怎么样. We have to see how the weather is tomorrow. In other words, it depends mainly on the weather. 老师喜欢他主要是因为他很用功. The teacher likes him mainly because he works very hard. We also practice the pattern 到 something 为止 up to a certain point. 到现在为止 up to now. Often we say 到目前为止, also meaning up to now. 止 means to stop, so this expression literally means stopping at a certain point. This pattern could be used to refer to a point of time, as in 到明朝为止 up to the Ming Dynasty. 到去年为止 up to last year.
我现在都可以当颐和园的导游了。
好啊，周末我和妈妈要一起去颐和园，你能当我们的导游吗？
哎，对了，正好刘勇周末要去学车，不能和他们一块儿去。你要是能陪他们去，那可就太好了。
没问题，小事一桩，包在我身上，保证让你们满意。
哥哥，颐和园是不是挺大的？
是啊，不过大家去颐和园不是因为它大，主要是因为它可以看的东西太多了。
那去颐和园主要应该看什么呢？
根据我的调查，颐和园是中国园林艺术的代表。如果你想了解中国园林文化，看看颐和园就够了。
有那么好吗？听起来像广告一样。
我可没吹牛，你们亲自去看看就知道了。
一言为定，我星期六来找你。
没问题。
As I mentioned, the Summer Palace is closely linked with the Empress Dowager Cixi, the dominant figure in the late Qing dynasty. The Summer Palace was one of her favorite hangouts. Often the emperor would spend the summers here, where the man-made lake helps to keep the palaces cooler than the Forbidden City. It is said that the Empress Dowager would sit behind a screen that was behind the emperor's throne, so that she could hear all of the proceedings, what was going on in the affairs of the nation, and then tell the emperor what he should do without anyone else seeing her. One expression we learned in this lesson was 偶尔, occasionally. Some people confuse this with 偶然, which means randomly. 他们偶尔来这里度假. They would occasionally come here to spend their vacations. 我偶尔喜欢吃烤鸭. I like to eat roast duck once in a while. Now, if you used 偶然 in these sentences, it wouldn't make much sense. For example, you could say, 他偶尔来这儿. He comes here once in a while. If you used 偶然, you might say, 他来到这里很偶然, meaning it was just by random chance that he happened to come here. So don't get 偶尔 and 偶然 mixed up. Later, we talked about the use of Guran, meaning of course. This is used to concede a point, but it's often followed by 不过, talking about how Wanshou Hill is shaped like a bat because the word bat, 蝙蝠, sounds like 福, meaning good fortune. Xiaowang says, 固然有这方面的考虑. Of course, they made this kind of consideration. They thought about this. 不过也反映了中国园林艺术中的一个重要特点. But it also demonstrates one of the main characteristics of the art of Chinese gardens. There are lots of stories and trivia to learn about the Summer Palace. Let's take a look at the dialogue now and see how their trip to the Summer Palace went.
慈禧和皇帝住在颐和园，他们不是住在故宫里吗？
他们不是偶尔来这里度假的吧？
不是这样的，慈禧太后就很喜欢住在这里，有时候她一住就是大半年呢。
哦，原来是这样啊！
走，跟我走。
这就是著名的长廊了吧？我以前经常在明信片上看到它。
这些画的都是什么？我都看不懂。
这里边有的我都看不懂，这里面有的画的是西湖风景，有的是民间故事。
我觉得这长廊设计得很不错，不仅分隔了这边的山和湖，而且看风景的时候还可以防雨防晒。
你还真说到点子上了，的确是这样的。
妈妈，你看那边的湖真漂亮。
这就是昆明湖，它的形状看起来像个寿桃，而后面的万寿山呢，它的形状像一只蝙蝠。
蝙蝠？为什么偏偏要像蝙蝠呢？多难看呐！
不知道了吧？这是因为蝙蝠的蝠和幸福的福的发音是一样的。
这样设计都是为了图个吉利吧？
固然有这方面的考虑，不过这也反映出中国园林的一大特点。
Well, that brings us to the end of today's review lesson. I hope you're able to pick up more the second time we went through these lessons. In our next episode, we're going to do another review of some of the other episodes that we've covered in the last few weeks. In those episodes, we were around the older areas of Beijing. We went to see some of the hutong, the alleyways, a courtyard home, 四合院, and we also went to 包饺子, make those 饺子 dumplings, in a friend's house. And we went to Beihai Park to see the Baita, the White Dagobah, and the Jiulongbi, the 9-dragon screen. We hope to see you here next time on Travel in Chinese. 再见。